Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today's a really fun video because I am going to be sharing with you guys all of my favorite individual eyeshadows. Now, hold on. This bad girl is my Makeup Forever palette. It is a curated eyeshadow palette of eyeshadows that I just feel like I need in my collection. So I do have eyeshadow palettes, and from those palettes I go, oh, I kind of wish I had this shade to pair with that, or this or that or whatever, or I just wish that I had these eyeshadows. And that's how I kind of grew to formulate, curate, whatever you want to say, this palette. Now, there is no rhyme or reason for this palette. It's not like all my colorful shadows, all my neutrals. It's not trying to put them together in some sort of way. They're literally just put in kind of like color order, and they're just eyeshadows that I feel like I need in my collection. There's no rhyme or reason to them. I'm not trying to create a theme or a palette. I'm just putting these eyeshadows in here. Now, this Makeup Forever thing is huge and it's amazing. It's a tin and it keeps the shadows really, really secure in here. I used to have a large Z palette, and that's way smaller than this, and Z palettes are just a little bit more flimsy, and I just like this a lot better. I got it off of Poshmark, so you might be able to find somebody who can sell it to you. They do still make this, but it's like long and skinny, and it has like this clear piece in the middle so you can see the shadows, which was what everyone's big complaint about this was, that they couldn't see the shadows like they could in a Z palette. To me, look at all the other palettes you have. Are they clear? No, you can't see in them, but you still use them. So I kind of think that's a little ridiculous. So I love this, and I think it has so much room in here, and there is still a lot of space in here for me to put eyeshadows in, so you never know, I may update this in a year or two and you might see different eyeshadows in there that I didn't have before, because it's always evolving and changing, and what I use and what I use on clients and what I feel like I needed, and trends and things come and go, so I may want something else. You never know. So let's get started with this bad boy. Okay, I also wanted to mention this before we start. The Jaclyn Hill palette is my favorite palette of all time. The quality, the quantity, the shades. I mean, she just did such a fantastic job on this. You really just get so much in here, and you can create so many looks. This is a staple, not only for me, but what I use on my clients. So if you hear me reference it a lot, it's because I'm not an eyeshadow person. I love eyeshadow. I think it's essential to your look. Yes, blah, blah, blah. But you know me. I love lips. I love highlighter, stuff like that. Eyeshadows, I don't need 75 different brown eyeshadows. I just need a couple warm tone, cool tone, a couple light, a couple dark, and that's it. I don't need to have tons and tons and tons of palettes. So yes, I have like 87,000 lip products, and I only have really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eyeshadow palettes. That's not, oh wait, no, seven eyeshadow palettes, including, and that's not including my curated ones, so 8 all together in my collection, because once I have an eyeshadow, I don't need like 20 of this color right here, you know what I mean? So I get really picky about eyeshadows. So if you hear me mention the Jaclyn Hill palette a lot, that's why, because I use this palette so much, not only for myself but for clients, but there was things that I would tweak about it if I could. And I've mentioned this before, that obviously it's not my very most perfect palette, because there are some things missing that I wish it had, but it was basically Jaclyn's perfect palette, and you guys know she's a warm tone queen. She has her favorite eyeshadows that she uses all the time, so I get it, you know what I mean? Like, I get it, that's her thing, and that's totally fine, and I absolutely love, love, love this palette. All right, let's go. Now I'm ready. Alright, so without further ado, this is my curated palette. Here, I'll turn it this way. Ooh. Alright, so as you can see, this is my curated palette. So I'm going to start with these shades over here first. These are from a Buxom palette that I curated myself. It was like a little mini one, and then I depotted them from there. The Buxom eyeshadows are amazing. They are so freaking good, so completely underrated. I have Lala Lavish, which is what I'm wearing on my eyes today. The really pretty purpley, like violet shade. And then I have this one, Pure Platinum. This is called Spoiled Sexy. This one next to it is Mixed Mink, Bronzed Bod, and Dusk Till Dawn. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch those for you now. These are primer infused shades. Just look at that. So they are very creamy and wet feeling, and they wear a really long time, and they look super duper beautiful. I only have one matte shade, but man, that matte shade has done me good. So these are these three. So I have Lala Lavish first on top. Then I have Pure Platinum, and this, my friends, is Pure Platinum. Pure blue toned, cool toned silver. Then I have Mixed Mink, which is one of my favorite champagne shades. I never feel like brands get champagne shades correct. And this one is gorgeous. So that's Mixed Mink. A perfect champagne. Then I have Spoiled Sexy, which is like this really brown mauve shade. Has like a purpley undertone to it. So pretty. Really good for any kind of pink purple look. Then I have Dusk Till Dawn and Bronzed Bod. Dusk Till Dawn is one of my favorite green eyeshadows of all time. I love like an olive golden kind of green, but I don't want too much gold in it, and this one is so good. So there is Dusk Till Dawn and Bronzed Bod. Bronzed Bod is a shade that when I looked at it, I was kind of like, meh, like it doesn't look that great. But it actually is like the most beautiful, like light capturing, like aura color. When you do like a brown, warm toned smoky eye, it just, like it sometimes looks really brown and other times it's like more orangey copper. Ugh. So these are my Buxom eyeshadows. As you guys can see by these swatches, they are so incredibly pigmented and beautiful. I'll zoom you guys in on the one on my eyes. It's just everything. Ugh, I love their eyeshadows. Just warning you, you guys are gonna hear me say that a lot today. So for the first row, these are all like my pale, like matte neutrals. There is no shimmers on this row at all. And I will be leaving everything down below. So if you guys have any questions about the brand or the cost or the shades, I will leave everything down below. That is your little resource, okay? Because I don't have time to put it in the video this time. So start us off first is the shade Snow Queen. This is from Sydney Grace Cosmetics. I love this white shade because it is really pigmented, but it's layerable. So I can use this to smoke out an eyeshadow look. I can use it as a really subtle brow bone highlight or all over lid shade. I can use it to diffuse an eyeshadow or as a crease. But I can also layer this up to get it really stark white in case I want something that's really intense. So like today, this Lala Lavish shade I put on top of another eyeshadow that I'm going to show you so that it wasn't as intense. But if I wanted this like fiery violet, I would put Snow Queen down first. It is such a good white eyeshadow. Love it, love it, love it. Moving on, this is probably one of my most used eyeshadows. This is Blanc Type from MAC. Now in the Jaclyn Hill palette, she has two kind of lighter cream shades at the top, Gleam and, oh, it escapes me. Let me check. Gleam, oh, Beam. Oh, sorry. And Light and Beam. But they're both shimmery. I wanted something that was matte, and Blanc Type from MAC is perfect. I didn't want something really extremely white, and I didn't want something shimmery. I wanted something a little off-white, a little more peachy beige, and that's what I get from this shade. It is so good. If you need to use it as an under eye brightening powder, a face setting powder, you need to use it all over the lid, you need it to diffuse eyeshadows, it is there for you, baby. I love Blanc Type. Next up, this shade is really interesting. It was a shade that I would have honestly never picked on my own, but this is so freaking beautiful. This is MAC Yogurt. MAC Yogurt is like a really almost pastel kind of pink, and you think just by the swatch it's going to be really intense, but it just gives the most beautiful pinky aura. There was a video, what was it? Oh, my fragrance net video. In that video, I have a bunch of brown matte eyeshadows in my crease, and then I have yogurt all over the lid, and it just looks like the most beautiful pink glow on the lid without being shimmery, and it's beautiful, and it's great for any pink look, purple look, even a red look. It's great for brown eyeshadows. It's great as a brow bone highlight, inner corner highlight, all over lid, diffusing. It's everything. I love MAC Yogurt. I think because I thought it was going to be so almost neon pastel, but it's really subtle, which is what I like. Next up is probably one of my most used shadows in this palette, and one of my favorite shadows. This is MAC Malt. MAC Malt, it almost looks, here it is in the pan, I don't know if you guys can see it, it's right here. It's this one right here. It is like a kind of beige peach shade, but when I put it on the lid, I almost find it to be very slightly pink. But again, it's beautiful. Like, I'll put this all over the lid and just smoke out the edges, and it's like this perfect, like, beigey nude pink eye. It's great as a transition. It's great for diffusing. It's great as a brow bone highlight. I honestly like yogurt a little bit better for like brow bone highlight, but you could use this one depending on how fair you are. It's just really neutral. It's so pretty. I love MAC Malt. Okay, next up, this is one from Sydney Grace Cosmetics. I can't remember the name, so forgive me, I have to pick it up. Okay, this one's called Embrace. This is a really pretty kind of dusty rose shade. It almost reminds me of the eyeshadow version of Mocha, the MAC blush. But I love this. It is so pretty. It's a little more like lavender kind of pinky mauve. It's a little bit darker and a little bit more pinky than Malt, but so pretty and such a good like pink eyeshadow. I freaking love it. Look how pretty that is. It's just so neutral in tone, and it's a little bit more brown shift. Oh, I just love it. That is Embrace by Sydney Grace. Ha! I rhymed. Don't mind me. It's been a long week. All right. Next up is a really underrated shade. When I got the Jaclyn Hill palette, she has two kind of more cool tone eyeshadows in here besides like these down here. She has this shade, I believe it's called, oh, I always get them confused, Hustle. This is Hustle. Very similar to a MAC eyeshadow. I think it's Sable that it's very close to. And then this shade right here, this shade is called Obsessed. This is very icy, cool toned as well. They didn't have any cool toned mattes to go with them, and I was just kind of like, I wish that I had something more cool toned to put with these eyeshadows, because if not, I just have to use like the dark purple or the dark brown, you know, and I don't know. I didn't want to do that. I wanted something a little more soft. So this is the eyeshadow that I picked up from MAC. This is MAC Omega. This is a beautiful kind of like cool toned khaki shade. It is so great for cool toned looks. It's so perfect, and it's great as like a contour on like a fair person. It's great for blonde eyeshadow, like if you're doing someone who's really fair. Sorry. If you're doing someone who has a really fair complexion and they have like no eyebrow, this is a really pretty like kind of khaki taupey shade to use in their brows. A lot of people use it for that. Such an underrated shade, but really good, really different. I don't see it a lot. Next up is a ColourPop eyeshadow called Take the Lead. I wanted a gray, and I do have other grays in my collection, but they are a lot more cool toned and they're a little bit darker. This is such a good gray shade, you guys. Oh, I'm running out of arm space. I will switch over in a minute. Here, I'll put it on the back of my arm here. But this is such a good gray shade. I find it to be just a little bit warmer in tone than the other gray shades that I have, and this is honestly my favorite. It's so pretty. Great for cool tone looks, great for blacks, browns, smoky eyes, purples, blues. It's a really good color because of the fact that it's a little bit warmer and not as deep as some of the other ones. All right, so the last one in this row is my only Anastasia one, and I love this shade. This shade, I mean, I have brown eyes and brown hair, so I love purple. And to be honest, I feel like anybody looks good with purple. Ooh, excuse me. These people won't shut up. This is Buon Fresco from Anastasia Beverly Hills. They describe this as an antique lavender, and I just love that name so much because it's so true. I love this shade. Again, with the Jaclyn Hill palette, I felt like she had some really good purples, but they were all really warm, really red based, really rich, and I wanted something purple but that was very neutral, more muted, more subdued, because sometimes I feel like brides want to play with color sometimes, but they don't want to play with color, you know what I mean? This is a great eyeshadow for pretty much anybody. It looks good on everyone. I love putting this all over my lid and just blending it out and having this really light purple moment. It's so pretty, and again, it's a great way to play with color without it being too crazy and over the top. And I love Anastasia's formula. It's so creamy and delicious. So I'm going to put this right under here. Ooh, yes. Beautiful. It's a great base, especially for something like the shade in the Jaclyn Hill palette called Hustle and other purple shades I'll show you later. It's just, oh, it's so good. I love Buon Fresco. All right, so moving on to my next row. This is kind of like my little bit like deeper pinks and purples and wine shades, if you will. So first up is a shade called Haven from Sydney Grace. Okay, the next shade that I have is called Haven. Haven is almost like a lavender pastel with like a really pinky undertone. Very pretty, very interesting kind of shade. I find that it's a little bit more pinkier than Buon Fresco. I feel like Buon Fresco is a little bit more gray in tone. I feel like this one is a little bit more pink in tone, but so pretty. And I feel like this can go either way. It's going to be really good for purple looks, or it's going to be really good for pink looks. So good. Love this shade. Next up is MAC Shale. MAC Shale is a really interesting formula. I love MAC eyeshadows because I feel like they're pigmented, but they're not overly pigmented. They're meant to be really buildable, which I really like. And it's actually the shade that I put on under this purple shade. So after I did the pinks, I just swept a little bit of MAC Shale on the lid and then put Lala Lavish on top. I love MAC Shale. MAC Shale was the first shade that I bought that I was like, I need another kind of like muted purple that's not too intense, that's not red based. Like, this is the one. I love MAC Shale. And this one, like its sister shadow I'll talk about in a minute, is a satin formula from MAC, which I think is really interesting because MAC has mattes, they have matte squares, they have luster finishes, shimmer finishes, like they have everything. And satin is one where it has like this sheen to the powder, where it's not a shimmer, it's not a matte, and it's definitely not one of those mattes that has like glitter in it. It is very sheeny, and so it just looks so beautiful because, again, you can just put it all over the lid as a really subtle lid color. You can use it as a transition shade. It's just so multi-purpose. This to me is a little bit darker than Buon Fresco. It's a little bit more darker, a little bit more gray, but so pretty. And you can see that sheen to it, can't you? Like, it almost looks shimmery, but you're like, it's not super intense. Beautiful shade. Absolutely love it. Next up is its sister shade, which is MAC Girlie. Again, Jaclyn had so many good pinks in her eyeshadow palettes that I wanted to utilize because those are so beautiful for bridal. But I didn't have a pink base that wasn't red or orange or coral. You know what I mean? I wanted something that was pink, but not hot pink, not coral, not red. I didn't want it too muted to where it was really brown. I wanted just a good basic neutral pink, and it's actually what I have started on my crease here. I love this shade, and it is a satin, so again, it has that sheen to it. Isn't it pretty? It's just a really nice neutral pink. Like, it's exactly what it is. It's just pink, you know? It's not too light, it's not too dark, it's not too purple, it's not too red. Ooh, it's so good. I'm gonna build it up for you guys a little bit because my hands is wrinkly. So that is MAC Girlie. So pretty. I love this shade. Beautiful on people with blonde hair. Just so pretty. And you could honestly use MAC Girlie as a blush too. Beautiful. All right. Now the next shade that I have in my palette, this is one, sorry, that I didn't know MAC had. This is, I think they like updated their color shades at MAC, because I was like looking at some of their colors. I was like, I've never seen this. I've never heard this shade before. This is a shade called Finjan. I'm so sorry. This is the shade. I don't know if you can read the back of this. Finjan. I'll put it down below. Anyway, I really love this color. It looks like a nice kind of like chocolatey brown, but it's kind of like a more like mauve-y kind of dusty rose shade. Really pigmented right here. Really pretty. This to me is more brown, where my Buxom Spoiled Sexy is a little bit more purpley undertone, where this is a little bit more brown. This is so beautiful. Oh my god. And this really complements MAC Malt, like putting MAC Malt down first and then putting this. Ooh, so good. And what kind is this? Is this a matte? I don't know. I just feel like this is a lot creamier than their normal matte formula. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I feel. Next up is actually the shade that I have that's the deepest in my crease, and this is Sydney Grace Adore Me. I love this shade. It's really, really pretty. Again, it works great with purple looks, pink looks, red looks. Ooh, baby. And Sydney Grace, y'all do it with the pigment, man. I love this shade. This, to me, when you first look at it, you're like, ooh, it's kind of like a terracotta-y kind of reddish pink. But then when it goes on, it's just like a dark pink shade. It's really pretty. Oh, I love it. Have I said I loved it? Do you guys know if I like these eyeshadows or not? All right, next up, this is a really good one. So a long time ago, I saw a video that Samantha Ravndal did with like a fellow makeup artist, and she did her makeup and gave like tips and tricks and things like that. And this girl had the sickest like wine shadow just all over her lid with like some black liner, and I was like, I need it. I need it. And it is, so I don't know what eyeshadow she was wearing, but I found this to be like the closest thing I could find. This is Unpredictable from Sydney Grace. And this is just such a pretty wine shade without it being too purple or too red. It's really pretty. Oh my god, you guys are gonna die when you see this. You need this. You need this, right? I know, I'm not trying to push products on people in a time like this, but isn't that just so pretty? Oh, it's so good. And next to Finjan, I find that Finjan, again, is still more brown than this. This is like a nice, like, wine-ish berry shade, again, without being too pink or too red or too purple. It's really good. Next up, I wanted a shade like Love Letter from the Modern Renaissance palette, and now they do have it in a single, but at the time they didn't, so I got this instead, which is fine because this eyeshadow is cheaper and really good quality. This is Going Steady by ColourPop. This is such a multi-purpose eyeshadow because you can use it with reds, pinks, purples, oranges, yellows, blues. It's such a good shade. I freaking love it. Now this is like a true like berry shade. Really pretty though. Great for a blush on like a deeper skin tone. Beautiful. And you know ColourPop, their crap's only like $5. So good. All right, finally, you're like, bitch, we're finally getting into shimmers. Thank God. I know. This shade is gorgeous. I love the pinks in the Jaclyn Hill palette, but they're all really light, and they're really warm, and they're really, like, have a silverish undertone to them, some of them. This one I felt like gave a little bit more pigment. This is Go For It from Sydney Grace. I loved this shade because it wasn't too purple and it wasn't too pink. It's like a beautiful, like, shimmery, like, purple mauve shade. I don't know. It is gorgeous, and Sydney Grace makes a gorgeous shimmer. Like, already, you guys, like, I know. Did you fall on the floor? I'll wait for you to get up. I know, you just had a heart attack. It is gorgeous. I'm going to swatch it on the back of my arm, and their shimmers, ooh, if y'all thought their mattes were good, their shimmers are creamy, pigment for days. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? It's such an interesting shade to me because it's not quite purple, but it's not quite pink. It's not too icy. It's Sydney Grace, baby. You do something for me. Okay, now we're moving on to our next row, which is the third row in the palette, and this is like my deeper purples, browns, and some greens. So the next shade that I have is called Collective. And you might be saying to yourself, wow, Collective is very similar to Go For It. You would be wrong, my friends, and I know I sound like a crazy person who's like, no, but they're different and you need all of them. But this to me is more pink based compared to this, and I find that this is a little bit duochromy. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Very beautiful. It almost has like this golden brown shift to it. So you guys can see the difference, right? Like, you can. Okay, yeah, I'm not crazy. I love this shade. It is so pretty. And again, it's not too purple, and it kind of has that shift to it where, like, at some points it looks a little more brown, and at some points it looks a little more pink, where I feel like this one just looks the same throughout. I love this shade. Next up, this is my little fragile girl. Some of the Sydney Grace Cosmetics eyeshadows are really soft, so you have to be careful. And this is one of my little special girls. She's a little special. This is totally worth it, and this shade is totally worth it. It is the most gorgeous purple, because don't get me wrong, I like the Jaclyn Hill purple, but it's not like my very most favorite. This one is glowing and shimmering and gorgeous and vivid and purple, but it has that more cooler undertone to it. It's not as red undertone as like Royalty is. I think that's what it's called from Jaclyn Hill. Yeah, Royalty. Not my favorite. Okay, not my favorite. This. Let me just show y'all. Look at that. Are you just in heaven right now? I know I am. Look at this. Woohoo! Do you not like... So obviously this one is a little bit warmer compared to like these two. Look at that. That is a good purple. That's a good purple. Oh my gosh. I love this shade. And again, I do, even though it is like an intense shade, but I don't find that it is unwearable. Like, I would still wear this out. I don't find that it's like too crazy. I just, oof, that's a good purple, y'all. All right, next up is a shade called Glass Bull. This is a beautiful kind of duochrome shade, and now, excuse me, I'm stuttering. Now I see more of these type of eyeshadows, but back in the day when I got this one, nobody else had a shade like this. And this is from ColourPop, and it's a beautiful kind of greenish, reddish, silverish, pewterish kind of shade. I don't know if you guys can see that too well. I'll put it under this one right here, but it is gorgeous. Super interesting. Here, I'll pick up a little bit more. I don't feel like it's... Yeah, I didn't swatch it very good, sorry. One can only see so much. I I love this shade though. It's so different and so pretty, and it just goes with like anything, and it's beautiful to put over top of anything as well. It's a really good shade. Oh, I love that. Ooh, yeesh. Okay, next up, this is a really interesting shade. I have to remember the name of it. Peace? Yes, don't have to pick it up because I remember it. This is Peace from Sydney Grace. At first, this looks like a kind of brownish eyeshadow, but it's like a brownish, pinkish, purplish, pewterish. Really gorgeous. Where should I swatch it? I'll swatch it right here for you. Ooh, baby, baby. Ooh, baby, baby. I would say it's like a champagne pink, but it is a little bit more brown, in my opinion. Just a smidgen more brown. Love it. Love this shade. Really good for bridal. Love, love, love that. Next up is my oldest single eyeshadow, I think. Oh no, I got one more that's older than this one. But this is MAC Swiss Chocolate. I think this is a great beginner shade. Now I do have shades like this in my Jaclyn Hill palette, but I bought this before I had my Jaclyn Hill palette. But this is a great MAC eyeshadow that pretty much works for anybody. MAC Swiss Chocolate, baby. Love it, love it, love it. This will be my last one on this arm, I swear to you. Again, this one doesn't swatch very well. It's a little bit more matte, but I really just love this. Like, you can't go wrong with this shade. It goes with anything. It deepens up any crease, but you can also use it really sparingly and do something really light as a transition shade. It's just so beautiful. MAC Swiss Chocolate, staple. Nothing like super good about it. It's just a really good eyeshadow. So if you're looking for like that good kind of warm brown, that's a good one. Next up, this is Rover from Sydney Grace. Again, another really interesting shade. It's like a brown with, I don't know. You guys will see. It's hard to explain. It's like a brown, but it has a sheen to it. Here, I'll swatch it down here. It has like this purple undertone to it. It's like a brown with like a purple undertone and a sheen. So yes, it's like, I don't feel like it's as intense as these ones up here in the shimmer. It just has like this very faint sheen to where you can use it like as a crease shade, but you could also use it as an all over lid shade for like a really nice smoky eye. Just so beautiful. I love that shade. Yeah, it's so interesting. Next one is another one that was a little temperamental. He's been injured, so bear with me. This is the shade Bravo. This is a really nice, mossy, neutral green. It broke, so I'm trying hard not to hurt him. So, not the best swatch, but again, it is like a broken shade. Here, I'll do it right here. But just a really pretty green. This is a very light swatch, and as you can see, it shows up a little lighter. But if I were to pick up more product and really place it on there, you layer it up really well, and it can become deeper and deeper the more you layer. So depending on whether you want this to be a crease shade, transition shade, or you want it to be like in your outer corner, it's such a good shade though. I don't find it's too dark. Like the one in the Jaclyn Hill palette is good, and it's good for an outer corner. The shade Enchanted, but it's really dark. It's like a black with just like a drop of green in it. All right. The next shade is super interesting. This shade is called Dazzle. Look at that. I like this shade because it is green, but it's not neon lime green. It's not too golden yellow. You'll see. It's really good. Really beautiful, really interesting. Look at that. It's a really good green. Oh man, I'm running out of space. But I'm too lazy to wash my hands. Look at that. Ooh! That's so pretty, isn't it? It has like the perfect amount of gold to it where it's not too light green, electric green, but it's not golden yellow. It's so pretty. And with this shade, you guys know I love green eyeshadow. All right, I will go wash my hands now because I'm running out of space, but then we will do our very last row. Whew. Okay, so I had to wash my hands. Ooh, it is getting hot in here, but it's not that kind of video, so I won't take off all my clothes. All right. Okay, so the very last row is kind of like my colorful eyeshadows and my more golden eyeshadows. The next shade is called Megalodon. So I saw the Smoke Sessions palette from Melt Cosmetics. Absolutely beautiful. And if you love those aqua, blues, greens, great palette for you. Great eyeshadow brand. Love Melt Cosmetics. There's a shade in there. It's like, I think it's right in the middle. It's like this beautiful blue shade that's not quite aqua, not quite teal, not quite blue. And I don't know the name of that one, but I remember Sydney Grace, I think, doing a kind of like dupe for that. Like they do a lot of dupes. So if you go on their Instagram page and you're like, oh man, I wish I could get this, or I love the Natasha Denona Gold palette, but I only want this shade, or you know, whatever you want to dupe it for cheaper, you could do that. And one of the ones that she did was the Smoke Sessions palette, and this shade, ooh, so good. This one in my palette is called Megalodon, and it is the most gorgeous shade. I mean, are you all ready? So good. This is definitely a little bit more of like an out there kind of a shade. Obviously not something I use all the time, but it is so fun. It is so beautiful, and I do really like it because it's not quite green, it's not quite blue, it's not quite teal, it's not super golden. It's like all of that mixed together to create Megalodon. Gorgeous. All right, the next one, I'm not gonna lie, I was that person who, when I saw Kylie Jenner with the little pop of yellow in her inner corner, I went on a mad witch hunt for a perfect yellow. I will say that Sydney Grace's website has gotten better, but it was a little bit hard for me to navigate this eyeshadow because I kept seeing it and I kept seeing other gold, yellowish golds that they didn't have, and some were just too dark, some were too yellow, too gold, and I was like, oh. And I finally found one, but I couldn't find it under their shimmers, so I had to actually like type it in and search for it. So if I were you and I want Sydney Grace shadows, I'd go to their Instagram first, write down a list of all the ones you want or screenshot them, and then go to the website and type them in to find them, because I could not find this shade Lemonade anywhere. And then finally I typed it in and then I found it. So just a little tip. But this is gorgeous. This is a great yellow. Great if you're trying to have that Kylie Jenner moment. Beautiful. I love this. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It does have a little bit of kind of a greenish undertone, like very slightly, but it's still mostly yellow. I feel like it's picking up more green on camera, but when I'm looking at it, it's like a pure yellow. Yeah, I don't know. It looks a little more green. Maybe I'd have more green on my finger. I'm just kidding. I didn't nearly do that. Okay, next shade is an oldie but a goodie. I love this, and I love having multiple shades of gold, especially for different skin types, and this is one of my favorite for a deeper skin tone. This is Two Birds from ColourPop. It's a really nice kind of intense golden yellow. So as you can see, compared to Lemonade, it is more golden, but it's still a very yellow-based gold compared to some other golds that I'm about to show you, but absolutely gorgeous. A deep skin tone, loves this. You could also use it as a really, like really subtly, I mean, as a highlighter on a deeper skin tone too, if you want. Getting a little trophy wife vibes from Fenty. This next shade is my favorite gold eyeshadow of all time. Naked 2, I love that palette. I used it till the bitter end. My eyes were itching. Half the shadows had fallen out, or I used them to pan. I love this shade, Baked. Now, Half Baked was the one in the Naked 2 palette, but I think Baked is the one from the original Naked. But I love this. This is the most beautiful, neutral, creamy gold that's not too yellow based. I freaking love this gold. I do like the one in the Jaclyn Hill palette, but it is a little bit dark bronzy. This, as you can see, it's not as yellow based as this. It's extremely foiled. I love this. Favorite gold, Urban Decay Baked. Now, just warning you, Urban Decay does not have the cheapest single eyeshadows, okay? This is a $22 single eyeshadow. That's very, very expensive compared to the other $6, $7, $5 ones that I have. So, just bear that in mind. But I would pay for it all over again because this gold is my absolute favorite of all time. And last but not least is Blushed from Sydney Grace. Now, in the pan, it looks a little bit rose gold, but when it goes on, it's actually like this more fiery gold. And I will show you what I mean when I swatch it. It's obviously a little bit deeper than Baked, and it has like this more rose gold undertone to it. So I feel like it's still a little bit more gold than I thought it was going to be, but still so beautiful. I love this shade. And some of you may be wondering, or maybe none of you, is it comparable to my favorite shade in the Jaclyn Hill palette, which is called SBN, Smoky But Natural. It is this bad boy right here. It is my favorite shade. It looks good on everyone. And she called it smoky but natural because she would have people be like, I want something smoky but natural and blah, 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 and not too gold but not red, da, da, da. And she found this perfect like rose gold shade, and it truly is so beautiful. I became so quickly obsessed with it. And it's not. This one is more pink, more rose gold, and I'll show you what I mean. I'll put it underneath. Oh, just as good as the day I got it. So this is, I don't know how well you guys can see, this is the Jaclyn Hill Smoky But Natural, and this is Sydney Grace Blushed. So I think the Jaclyn Hill one has a little bit more rose gold, more pink, and this has a little bit more gold. Different, but similar. So if you can't get your hands on the Jaclyn Hill palette, then that's a good option for you. But I just, I will miss this shade so much when I don't have her anymore because I'm getting dangerously low. But yes, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous shades. Whew, we need a drink after that one, my friends. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that is my curated eyeshadow palette. Those are all my individual shades that my collection just needs for one reason or another. I love them. All the brands that I have in there are brands that I have researched and read about their formulas and looked up reviews and tried them, and they are all super solid. Buxom, Sydney Grace, Urban Decay, Anastasia, ColourPop, MAC. All favorite single eyeshadows of mine. So let me know. What do you guys think? Do you guys even buy single eyeshadows anymore? I think that they're kind of good because sometimes I'll look at a palette and I will be like, oh, I love this palette, but I have so many of these shades and I wish I could just get like this shade and this shade. And so I will either, if that brand has them as singles, I'll get them there. Or if I can find another brand like Sydney Grace, like MAC, that has it, that's very similar, I will buy that from them. And then I can, you know, not waste a whole palette, not really getting a lot of use out of it because I have the other colors already, or it takes me a while to get through them. Now I just have these individual shades that I can grab from. And I think having this palette is so great. It complements my other palettes so well. And I know now, I know this sounds like really like crazy of me to say, but as someone who's like a freelance makeup artist, I like knowing that I have a collection that I know that I can make a kind of purple eye, I can make a neutral brown, a warm brown, a golden, a rose gold. I can really pull, and I never feel like, oh, I don't have this, or oh, if I just had this, it would just look better than this. And so that's why I like it. I know it's more expensive that way because, yeah, even though you're like, oh, $6 for an eyeshadow, it does end up being more. Like the Urban Decay palettes, they're $52, but if you bought those 15 shades, you'd spend way more, you know? It's like Pat McGrath. Like, you think about her palettes and you're like, oh my god, $125 palette for 10 shades? What? But when you actually break down the cost of her eyeshadows that are $25 a piece, her single ones, if you got 10 of her singles, that's way more than one palette. You know what I mean? And I think that you do pay one for a little bit more product that way, especially like with Anastasia. They're 14 pan eyeshadow palettes. You just don't get as much product as you would with one of their single eyeshadows. So theirs are 12. That's kind of like a mid price range. It's not like the most expensive, but it's not cheap. And so 14 times 12, that's a way more than a $45 palette. Yes, you pay for more product, and of course you're paying for that customization, you know what I mean? You're paying for the fact that you know I am going to use all of these eyeshadows because I picked them out myself. I didn't buy a pre-curated palette for myself that someone else put together. I'm putting this together. So if you're someone who wants to create your perfect palette, or you want to fill in the gaps like I do, it's, you know, it's a great way to go. I like it, and makes me very picky about buying eyeshadow palettes 100%, because I'm always like, already have it, yep, already have it, already have it, already have it. But that's good, because then it causes me to really think about the purchases I'm making, and it causes me to be a more conscious consumer. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you'd like to see any more. I thought I could trust them to not talk if I turn my phone on. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Do you like buying single eyeshadows? Do you not? Would you rather just buy palettes? Is it too expensive? You know, is there any of these eyeshadows that you'd like me to see a more in-depth look on? Because today's look, I used all shades from those palettes. Let me know. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!